Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Welcome to my podcast, where we are going to talk about a lifestyle with dogs and threw in a few life lessons along the way. Whether you're a hound hunter, bird dog enthusiast, running setters, pointers, retrievers, or a flat-out running dog junkie, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, a certified law enforcement canine trainer with over 3 decades of personal and professional training and handling experience. It's time for me to pay it forward. So grab your leads, lace up those boots, and come and join me on this lifelong process of teaching, training, and learning. Are you looking to unlock your dog's full potential and give them the best nutrition possible for peak performance? Then look no further. Inukshuk has what you're looking for. Inukshuk's nutrient-dense formulas are crafted to keep your dog's energy high and performance top-notch. Packed with premium proteins and essential fats, Inukshuk delivers the balanced nutrition your dog needs to thrive. From hunting dogs to police canines, Inukshuk is trusted by professionals. Give your dog the power of peak performance with Inukshuk professional dog food. All right, so this is a follow-up podcast that I promised you guys for the guy that left the review on the gun-shy dogs. I've got none other than Mr. Jason Carter from Merrymeeting Kennels up in Maine. Got to spend some time with Jason last year. While I was in Maine, we got to sit down and have supper and talk dogs, and it's always a great time when you can sit down and learn and talk dogs and kind of pick people's brains and get in their wheelhouse on what they do. So that's why I reach out to Jason about this gun shy issue. But first, before we get started, well, Jason, let me just say, how's everything with you this evening? How's everything in Maine?
Oh, it couldn't be better. Hunting season kicked up this weekend. We are living large in the woods. Everything is right in the world right now. Yeah.
So just to give and I know this podcast will not drop for a couple of weeks. So when you hear it, it's going to be behind time. So I'll just kind of get you up to date on what it is here. So our 3-day early season comes in the morning. So I'll be hunting for 3 days. But first and foremost, we got to talk about the flooding that has happened here in Southwest Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee. I know that TL and Shorty are actually doing a YouTube live right now, and they're talking about it, and TL is talking about the stuff that's going on in Tennessee. We have some friends that live in Asheville. There's no way in or no way out. They've had no phone service, no Wi-Fi. They actually was able to get some cell service, and they started texting about or sending the post out about what's going on. And for the guys in that area, our thoughts and prayers are with you guys. We, hopefully everything works out. I know you've got some help coming, but they said that they're rationing the gas because you can't get gas in and out. I know that I seen some posts on people going to send in. They're actually bringing in pack mules to try to pack stuff in and out for them. The roads, I seen a post today. Now, whether this is accurate or not, I don't know. So I'm telling you hearsay that they said there was 400 roads in North Carolina closed down. It's just devastated. The area my town that I live in, which is a small town in Narrows, which is on the New River, and Narrows got its name because the two mountains, East River Mountain and Peters Mountain, come together, and it's a narrow passage, and that's how Narrows got its name. But the river has not been this high since 1940, and a lot of homes lost. People, there's a lot of camping areas on the river along in Giles County and Montgomery County, where I'm at now. They lost everything. Houses on the river, they've lost everything. So, our hearts go out to the people that's lost things. If you guys can help, I know that I've seen a post going around about donating, and it goes straight to Amazon, and you can send stuff to those areas. $5 helps. A case of water helps. I've seen people here in my hometown offering, showers, opening up their house to people, take a shower, charge their electronics, whatever you need to do. I know my daughter lives in Withville, which is not in any like river-based area or, large creeks, and they've lost Wi-Fi and cell service because the Verizon towers are down. So this has affected a lot of people, and I don't know. I just seen the news pop up, and I hope it's fake news, but it said that there's another one coming this way on the 10th, and I don't think we can sustain another one. But for anybody that wants to see everybody pretty much knows what's going on, but it has definitely affected the hunting community, the hound community. You got a lot of houndsmen especially Eastern Tennessee, Greenville, down towards Asheville, Henderson, those areas. So, like I said, our thoughts and prayers go out to them for what's going on and what they're having to deal with. So I don't think I can say anything else that's going to make that any better. But that's where we're at. That's this weekend. That's what's happened. Other than being without power for a while, that was all I had to deal with, and I feel very blessed that I'm not having to deal with some of the other stuff. A lot of my friends have places on the river over in Giles County, and they were posting pictures today, and 6 and 8 foot of water. A couple of the houses were plumb up over the roof with water, so probably a total loss. Man, I hate to be some of these insurance companies right now because, wow, that's going to be a lot. But just to get everybody caught up, that's where we're at. But, Jason, so I'm going to read this post to you, and then you and I can just kind of dive into it and talk about it. Like I said, I give and I don't have a name, or I would call him by name. It was just a name for a review. So I know I've read this already, but we're going to read it again so we can get Jason's expert opinion. It says, Heath, I really enjoy all of your content. What is most helpful is anything training. I am not running bear dogs, but acquired my first squirrel dog just 9 years ago. A lot of your methods transfer. I experienced an issue recently I haven't heard discussed. I have started 5 different puppies over the last 5 years, 2 of them the same issue. At 8-10 weeks of age, I slowly began introducing them to gunfire, first with loud clapping while they are eating, progressing to a 22 and then to a 12 gauge. No issues with either pup. Had them not flinching with a 12 gauge over their head by 4 or 5 months old. This work was done different years, but late spring, early summer, the problem came up in July, early August. Upon hearing shots, both pups were extremely gun nervous, resulting in me having to start all over. What are your thoughts? I suspect 4th of July fireworks. My closest neighbor is 200 yards away from the kennel. Is this that, or am I going too long without shooting around them? What do you think? I've had no other issues with the other pups. They are all mountain curs with different bloodlines. All right, Jason.
Yeah, there's a lot there that could be going wrong. 8 weeks that's a pretty small pup. I mean, clapping hands and loud noises and dropping pans in the house is fine. That's a good introduction, but to start with actual gunfire, especially if you've seen some sensitivities in other lines, I'd be real cautious with a young pup. I mean, 8 weeks old is, you get all the time in the world. There's no rush. When we see this a lot in our dog training where people are just like, okay, we got hunting season coming up. I got a 10-week-old puppy. I haven't done any, fired any shots over it. I'm going to start shooting over my dog. Well, it's like, okay, well, what is the worst case scenario there? So, I mean, to back up just a little bit, when you're dealing with any gun sensitivity, you got to think 2 things. Is it the dog having a negative association to the gunfire because of a negative experience, such as, like he suggested, fireworks? I think you're crazy not to crank up music and go for a drive on the 4th of July. Go get as far from fireworks with a young puppy or any dog as you can. There's no place in a dog's life for fireworks because there's no positive association. And if you think about like when you fire a 22, it doesn't have that solid concussive sound a firework has that a dog can't associate with anything positive. And that's the key to everything, is that gunfire for a hunting dog is a positive experience. It's associated with birds, associated with bears, associated with game chase, depending on whatever game you're playing. It's that fire, that loud noise is associated with something positive. Now, dogs have, in my beliefs, dogs are either it's a drive issue or it's a desire issue. If it's a drive issue, that's the inherent foundation of the dog. So the dog, since this is multi-generational and you're seeing it in multiple dogs in a certain line, I would say that's a drive issue in that dog. So you would have to be super careful about early introduction. I would let the dog be old enough where the dog is tearing after game, maybe has his mouth on game or just about to, and the dog is not thinking about the world at all, and then introduce your gunfire, because now that game produces a noise that is associated to that what the dog is excited about. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll back away and we'll shoot off in a distance. And that we call that like gun neutralization. So you're just neutralizing that noise way off in a distance while the dog's having a good time. And that noise gets closer and closer to the dog. But again, it's not at a young age. This dog has to show it has the temperament to handle loud noises. And I don't care what age dog is when it comes to fireworks, none of them can handle it. Some dogs don't flinch. I don't care. I shoot my own. My dog sits underneath it. You're lucky. Okay, because you're going to run into one that won't handle it, and then you ruined your dog. And so a shotgun has that similar low, or a rifle has that similar low concussive heavy sound to it like a firework does. So even a distance firework or a distance gunshot will have the same reaction in a gun-sensitive dog. So gun shyness is the dog's quits hunting. It's done. It goes back to the house, goes back to the car. It gets fearful. It's done. Gun sensitive is a dog that just doesn't like it. It has some negative associations with gunfire, and so the dog runs from the sound, but still in the game. It's showing it's like, oh, I don't like this, but I can get back. Those dogs are easier to get through. You can just put more positive associations to that gunfire. They roll through. Dogs that are gun shy, that takes a little bit of work. I had a Griffon a number of years ago. You couldn't bring a gun out of the gun cabinet before it was shaking in the corner. You even walked for your gun. The dog was scared. So I started to feed all his meals from the barrel of the gun. I put treats down my shotgun. That dog couldn't wait to see my shotgun. And that's, but I didn't progress. I mean, that took weeks to get through. And the dog never really, it became gun sensitive. He could hunt over his dog, but that was always part of the dog. The dog was just wired that way. So to answer the question, yes, one, the dog is probably have it in its lineage. It's prone to being gun sensitive. So don't start at 8 weeks. If you do everything right, you're still going to mess up a dog that has that genetic wiring. So I would wait till that dog is ripping and tearing and it's just a monster in the woods. Then introduce your gunfire. It might be later than you use. See, dogs, everybody thinks dogs run on a timetable. This dog's going to go through the same program at the same time. Dogs don't work that way. You may want to wait till the dog is 5 months old before you start, or even 8 months old. You're not behind the game. I mean, you can just introduce your dog to woods and all these positive experiences, and then right last second start working your gun sensitivity into it. You should treat every dog as if it is gun shy. So as your puppy goes, if you're seeing any sensitivities, let the thing grow up. Give it some time. Don't rush it. Don't follow your okay, 8 weeks. I'm going to fire a 22 at 100 yards. and then I'm going to work my way closer. Well, that dog may not be ready if you're already seeing some sensitivities around drop bowls and clapping hands. You start seeing those things, then slow down and allow the dog to grow up. They're super young at that age, would be a good start there. But again, you're dealing with either the genetic makeup of the dog, that's hard to run from. It's just going to be in there. You may be able to hunt with the dog, but that sensitivity is just going to be there. And so if the dog is on game and you're firing, you're good. But the dog doesn't see you shoot the game and it's off to the side and it doesn't have any positive association to that gunfire, that dog may go back to the truck. And then you have the dogs that, with fireworks or some negative association with loud noises, is same deal. If that dog has enough desire for the game, you build that high enough, it will overcome its sensitivity.
Yeah. So a couple things.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple things you said there, you just kind of reiterated or repeated what I said. So we're on the same page. Like one of the things we do now, I'm talking about our police dogs, is we start, and again, we're not starting them at 8 weeks old either. They're 14, 15, 16 months old. And Jason, I think it's so important. One of the things that you stated is everybody gets in such a hurry. It's not a race. And I talked in the little blurb that I did, I talked about the fear stages. Dogs go through a couple fear stages. And when you're trying to desensitize them in the middle of that stage, you're probably just working against yourself. But we start our police dogs on the other end of the football field. Somebody's already firing a weapon. We roll up on the other side of the football field. We get them out. We do a little obedience with their toy because they're in pretty high prey drive for that. We do just a 30-second blurb. We put them back in the car. We drive off, and as their confidence and the confidence builds, we move closer and closer and closer. And next thing you know, we can fire a pistol while our dog's in a hill right beside us. So it's a process. And like you said, it doesn't, some dogs work faster than others. Some dogs you can work right into it. Some dogs takes a little longer, but our dogs are, between a year and a half and 2 years old when we're doing that too.
And you're reading your dogs. You're seeing your dog with a gunfire. As you start going through the process, you see the dog amp up to gunfire. It's gaining momentum. It's excited. It's chasing. It's building. It's packaged to drive into whatever that you're after. So that by reading your dogs, then you can say, oh yeah, I can bring this closer. Mm-hmm. Or you could see like, oh, well, the dog was jumped, looked around, then got back into it. That's okay. But it just means maybe you're not really ready to get any closer. Or then you see the dogs that get on their heels and then they're like, ooh, I didn't like that. And you see the ears fold and you're like, okay, well, we're going to give this dog a little more time before we reintroduce this. But you're reading your dog in the process.
Yeah. And I talked about the shotgun specifically, and I think you actually said this. I'm a believer that the percussion off of the shotgun, my dog is solid on 9mm, 40mm, and AR. I can shoot any of those weapons around him, and he don't even raise an eyebrow. But you throw a shotgun on him, and we were doing beanbag. So what we were doing is I had a suspect jump out of the car, and we'd beanbag, and then send the dog on apprehension. So it's like a distraction technique, right? And when they would fire that beanbag round, which is a shotgun, kaboom, my dog, ears would pin back, tail would go under his leg. He'd still go do his job, but he didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so what we did is we separated. We moved the shotgun over, over, and I worked back into it. I did that and I didn't overdo it. I done it 2 or 3 more times from a distance, put him up. We called it a day. And then, a month later, we come back out. I did 2 more rounds, called it a day. And then the next training session we did with that, the tail was not up over his back, but it was parallel with his back. So I gained a little bit of behavioral change there with that.
Have you ever considered, do you guys ever take the gunfire and put it ahead of the excitement? So the gunfire is the antecedent to a positive experience. So the dog looks forward to the gunfire as a release command or as a just to get them excited about the job.
Yes. So we had a huge issue with this. So it used to be in our certifications, the decoy, which was the person the dog's going to apprehend, the decoy, I would fire 2 rounds, blanks, of course, boom, boom. The decoy would raise his hand, fire 2 rounds, boom, boom, and the dog was released to attack the decoy. Well, what happened is every time the dog heard gunfire, guess what he thought he was going to do?
Yeah, he was going to go attack.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it got harder and harder to keep the dogs from breaking.
Yeah.
And to people that don't understand what that means the dog's got to stay at a heel or a down while this is going on. They cannot release till you tell them to go. But they get amped up because they know what's coming next. They're good at predictive behavior. They know what's coming next. And I mean, like, boom, they're gone. So we actually took
my philosophy is that you could steady those dogs up pretty easy. Same thing in the bird world is like a dog that the bigger issue for me, the bigger fish to fry would be absolutely the dog fearing that gunshot. So you get that dog amped up ahead of time. I wouldn't take a driven dog and do that technique. I'm thinking more of like you're fixing an issue.
Yes, I'm with you. Mm-hmm.
So if you're fixing the issue, you fire that shot, the dog goes and apprehends the subject, and the dog gets pumped up for that gunshot. Well, then you're fixing that issue, and then you put the steadiness back in. It's the same thing for us as a dog that is break. I don't care, break, go catch the bird, go chase the bird. We can get that later. But if you're running from the bird because you're afraid of that there's going to be a gunshot, or you're running from your job because you're afraid of the gunshot, we'll make the gunshot the antecedent to excited behavior, because then you can get it back if there's a problem.
Yeah, and maybe we should differentiate that. Like, you're working with a different style of dog too. Like, you're working on dogs with different levels of drive, where we're working with dogs that's got high drive to start with.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you think about talking about drive, if you think a dog that has a little bit less drive, they're far more, I would imagine, far more prone to this gunfire, in that process. So a dog that's like overly driven, it's not even its environment doesn't affect it at all. All it can think about is whatever is exciting. It needs to go get that game or that subject or whatever. Those higher drive dogs, this usually isn't an issue for those dogs. It's the ones that are thinkers and ones that are a little more cautious in their world, and they're overthinking the situation, and then they worry, or they've had really traumatic firework situations where they're fearing and they're running and they have this built anxiety in them. Then you're going to definitely run into those problems. Yeah.
So let's back up and let me ask you a question. So I do it with my pups, and I don't know that I do it at 8 weeks old, but I start, like you said, I start banging some pans, making some loud noises. I've actually taken balloons before and popped them while they're eating. What age, and I know maybe I can answer my own question because I know what I want to say. What age would you really start trying to see where the dogs are at? Like, okay, can I do this, or should I not wait? Should I wait a little bit?
Oh, a lot of times the breeders will be doing that in the process, is that they'll drop a pan of food, flip it over, and just bang a pan in the room and let the puppy, like a litter of puppies, come tear in. That loud noise is food time, and so they start. Breeders can even start doing those loud noises before you even get your dog. When you do get your dog, it's loud noises is going to be part of its life anyhow. But I would definitely introduce it right from the get-go. And if you're seeing sensitivities, don't chase it. A lot of people be like, oh, my dog's sensitive, so I need to do more of this. No, do the opposite. Just allow it to grow, mature, and don't create an issue that's not there.
Yeah. I said a lot of those things too, and it makes sense to us because we see the benefits. And one of the things that I've learned, and I think maybe me and you even talked about this last year, just not rushing things. Like I'm looking for the long term, not the short term. So I don't need my 6-month-old dog doing X, Y, and Z. I need my 3-year-old dog being a consistent dog that is getting ready to mature out and that I can put a lot of faith in him doing it. So I'm not looking at that 6, 8, 10 months, even a year old. Like I just started hunting my bee litter and they literally just turned a year old in end of July. And here it is September. So they're 14 months old, but I literally just started hunting them. Like I'm not in a rush to do it.
Well, you got to get in the bird world, they say you got to get the go before the whoa. So we stop our dogs. So, it's before you put the controls on, you got to get a dog that'll hunt. If you start putting all the controls on and you're adding all kinds of stress into their life with loud noises, and then you're expecting them to be obedient on top of those loud noises, you're shrinking your dog. You're pulling your dog in. Versus your dog in and getting them excited and seeing them enjoy training, enjoy hunting. That's when you start putting on the controls. But before then you could be stealing from the hunt.
Yeah, and I think too, I'm not a squirrel hunter. I know nothing. I know what a tree dog is, but like for us in the bear world, and I know some people don't, but we always tie our dogs back before a bear shot. Always, because we don't want a thumb coming out of the tree and landing on a dog, right? So even if my dogs wanted to escape, they can't. They're tied up. I was just sitting here kind of thinking about it. I probably subconsciously do this without really thinking about it. Is I usually tie my younger dogs back further than my older dogs, and I don't know if that's just something I've just gotten a habit of doing, or I just do it. But that's even better because they're not right up there where the gunshot's going off.
However, can I throw a caveat in that? They're not seeing the bear come falling out of the tree. They're not seeing the excitement, and they're not putting that shot to a positive association. If you put them further back, further away from the gunfire, it's not as concussive, sure. But if you brought them in, they're part of the game. They have the excitement of the veteran dogs beside them. They're showing them, yeah, we want to get this. And it's pretty exciting. It's going to bring that pup in being like, okay, that shot means something great's going to happen.
Yeah. And I don't think I tie them back where they can't see.
Okay. All right.
I know what you're saying. No, well, most of our landscape is up or down. So
yeah,
you're tying them up, you're tying them back, you're tying them up the hill where they can see. But no, I understand exactly what you're saying, and maybe I need to change it. Maybe I need to put them up there a little closer with the older dogs, and let them be a part of that party, because that's what it is at that point, right? It's a party. So, yeah, I don't know. Any other thoughts on the gunshots or gun shyness?
Yeah, it's just, you got to be smart. You got to read your dog. Put it positive association to it if you can. Stay away from fireworks. God, stay away from fireworks. That's a deal breaker for any dog. But yeah, if your dog is wired to be gun sensitive, it's just sensitive in the world in general, it's nervous, has anxiety, take your time. If your dog is a bold, hard driver and loud noises, doesn't even blink an eye, and you've fired shots in the distance and now you're bringing them closer, just again, pay attention. If you see some nervousness, just take your time, let the dog grow up a little bit, or just do more of it further away, and just allow the dog to have that positive association to those gunfire, and then you'll be fine. Some dogs are just wired for it, so you gotta pick your breeder like anything.
Yeah, and he did say that the dogs were not from the same bloodline.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that's what let me make sure. I'm pretty sure that's what he said, that they were not from. So maybe, like you said, maybe genetics are playing into that some.
And if that's not the case, then the 8 weeks firing over an 8-week puppy, probably not a good deal.
Yeah. All pups were mountain curs with different bloodlines. So, yeah. So okay. They were from different bloodlines. Yeah, I'm with you. And like I said, 8 weeks is pretty young for that. I mean,
that's a little puppy.
Yes, it is. The like you said, the clapping, maybe dropping a bowl or two, whatever. But
I mean, the world is stressful enough. Taking your puppy into town, giving it new car rides. I mean, everything is new to that dog. So putting anything loud and for a lot of those hunting lines, not an issue. But why hurry that? That's a little pup.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly shoot. Have them around gunfire, either at our clinics or whatever that we training clinics and stuff. And if there's any sensitivity, rule is if you see any jumping up on you or any anxious type of behavior, go home. It's not worth it.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is something else that I brought up when I did my little short thing. Do you start out so when y'all bird hunt, are y'all using 12 gauges or 20 gauges or what?
20, 12, 28, 16.
Yeah. So and I suggested maybe starting off with like a 410. Yeah. Start off with a smaller, boom, and then, work up to the 12, because like I said, the 12 does have a lot of percussion behind it.
Especially if you're seeing some sensitivities, for sure.
Yeah. Is that something that y'all do, or y'all just stay with the 12 and add distance?
No, we haven't, we don't do that. The hard part for us is because of the dense cover we're in, you can't guarantee the dog's going to see the bird when you fire a shot. So you have to do a lot of field work prior to getting in the woods. If the dog doesn't see the bird fly up when you shoot it, then you could run into the same sensitivity, because it's just not putting it together. It's just loud noise without that enticement. But yeah, no, I think that might be a good idea, especially if you're seeing sensitivities. Go to a lighter gun for sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you've got time, like if you've got squirrel hunting's a little different than the bird hunting, but yeah, I mean, if you have time, why not take it? He started with a 22 and then went to a 12 gauge. Why not add a gun or so in between? With
the sensitive dogs, I've gone all the way back to pellet guns. That was enough to make the dog nervous, just that crack of the mechanism. And then I had to take a starter pistol wrapped in a towel, and that really deadened it nice.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, dog was always in chase when I fired. So then the dog was just looking for that bird. And then the dog was steady prior to that. In all of that heavy steadiness training, or any of the training that you do obedience wise ahead of it, is a detriment to a gun sensitive dog, because you're adding anxiety to an already anxious dog. So you're just heading down. So lift all the expectations, let the dog go and just tear, and then put your gunshots to it and get them a little more excited about it.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
You start putting heavy obedience on, they're just going to shut down.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I vision what a squirrel dog would be, and I've passed a lot of guys road hunting the dogs and stuff, but to be in that world, I'm not 100%. I don't know what kind of handle they keep on. I'm assuming a cur dog hunts pretty close to them, so I don't know what it would consist of, as far as like their handle and how they listen and what they do obedience wise. But yeah, like you said, they got to go before they can load, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Hey, so before we get you off here, you wrote an article about nutrition.
Yeah.
And I got to read it, and I thought it was phenomenal. And I was waiting for that to drop so we could talk about it. Can you talk a little bit about that article and some things that I know you talked to Dr. Jill Klein? I don't remember the other vet in there that you talked to. One of the things that you talked about was preloading, and I would really like to go over that with the listeners.
So, basically next week I'm going to head up to the North Maine woods, which is about a week of hard hunting. And I was just seeing, after 3 days, my dogs were just falling apart, and, they just didn't have the energy. Yeah, I was hunting them real hard. But at the same time, they should be able to, I mean, I condition them. We run all summer. they're used to warm temps. I felt like they could handle it, and they just weren't. And I didn't know what to do. So I started doing some research and reached out to Yukonuba, and they got right back to me. And it was interesting. They had their nutritionist with their vet, and I guess they don't play together very often. So it was nice. They were excited to be together because they have kind of conflicting sometimes theories on things. But what was important to them was how to hydrate your dogs. And a lot of times what happens throughout the week is we're not giving our dogs at the cellular level in the muscles the energy they need the next day. So their food was passing through their digestive system, and they had to go all the way. So when I was feeding them, and I was morning feeding them, which was I learned not the best. I knew it wasn't. I always fed them lightly, but the sled dogs were having far better results at feeding 24 hours ahead, and they would carb load like a runner would, and so they would feed them, and then they would supplement them. And I was talking to you about it, Heath. Mm-hmm. You were up in Maine running some dogs, and I was explaining this, and you went into it. And what was your regimen? In the morning, you would do the water supplement.
Yeah. So I'm a bit, especially when the temperatures are hot, the humidity's up. I'm a big believer in using the glycerol, which I got from Dogs Are Treat. Kevin already has it pre-mixed. And you pour it into a gallon of water. I think it's 40 mm's into a gallon of water. Yeah. And I shake it up. So I got a pre-mix that I carry with me. And then after the hunt, and I've got this from Arlie Reynolds off a podcast, I use the maltodextrin, which is the starch, which is like your carbohydrate. So if you can get your dogs to the water within 30 minutes, then I've got a post mix that I use, and that's what I use. Now, I also do something else that I don't see a lot of people doing. If my hunt is over, if I get home at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, let's say that I go out early one morning, I get done, I get home, I feed my dogs then. I don't wait till that evening to feed them. I want that food to digest. I want them completely empty and ready to go again the next morning. And I feel like the later that I feed them in the evening, the more I've got to deal with in the morning, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's total sense. They said you got to get that food in them as soon as you can, because that has to get into the muscles. And so you need 24 hours for them to utilize that food. So the sooner you can get it into them, don't while they're panting and still hot, don't feed them then. But as soon as they cool down a little bit, get that meal into them as soon as possible so they can utilize it. And the other thing they said was they noticed that if you feed them dry food, it took them 4+ hours to digest that food. Where if it was more like cereal, that was like an hour. And then if it was more like a mash, like a wet mash, and that went through them in well under an hour, and they were utilizing that food quicker. So they did recommend to add a lot of water to the food.
So what about you talked about preloading, and I thought this was very, very interesting, because this is something, again, that I subconsciously I do it. So before, if I'm getting ready to start my season, and I've got I'm watching them, I'm feeding them every day. I've got them in the good body weight. Now, I'm not saying they're in shape, but I've got them in a good body weight. And I always know that my first couple of days, it really shocks their system. Like, boom, they're out. Now they're running 10 miles a day, or 5 miles a day, or 15 miles a day, whatever that race ends up being. Like, I always start that week before and feed my dogs a little extra, because I know after that first day or two of running hard that I'm going to see a decline in their body weight. Mm-hmm. And you talked about that. I don't know if you talked about it with Jill or who, but you talked about that in your article.
Yeah, because if you think of they're burning all that blood sugar. That they're hammering all of that. So now they're digging into the fat. Once they burn through all that carbohydrate, then they're going to be working on the fat off their body. and once that's gone, then they're working on the muscle of their body. And so they're going to slowly deteriorate if not fed properly. Mm-hmm. So it's super important to get that food in them, get enough in them. And it feels like sometimes I just can't get enough in them, So I've started to add bone broth to the food. Mm-hmm. And that seems to, there's a supplement you can put on there that bone broth that just makes it a little tastier. Put it in the water, and now you can get that water in them a little more than they would normally drink. And so that I've been using bone broth, seem to help out as well.
Now, are you baiting your water with that so they get some of that glycerol in, or are you just do the other?
Yep, that's what I'm doing. And they'll drink a lot more water, and and in the article, the vet hadn't used it, and she was due to her inexperience with it, she was very skeptical of using it because there's you can get the way it works is let's say your dog drinks a certain amount of water, they're gonna void a lot of that water. It's not gonna make it into the system. Mm-hmm. But when you start putting supplements to it, now they're using a lot more water, and they can become overhydrated, hypohydrated, and hyperhydrated, and that's bad for the kidneys, and so you can hurt your dog that way. So she was kind of skeptical about using it, but if you just follow the instructions like you said, I'm really excited to next week to put that to use and really see that my dog's performance increase and they can maintain that level of effort throughout the week.
So what after the 3 days? What was you like? What was it you were saying? They just didn't have the energy, or was it?
Yeah, so they would start off, stiff after running, but everything would get going, and they would be okay. But it didn't have the same zip. Their search for game wasn't as big as it normally is. They weren't hunting as hard to find the game, so they were starting to shrink, getting closer to me. I'd be going into new covers, they're kind of sticking to the road a little more, and where normally they would kill themselves being in the woods. So I was just kind of concerned. Like after the third day, I'm like, well, all right. Well, I was hunting 8 to 10 hours day one. Now I'm hunting 6 hours, and now I'm like 4 hours per dog. And I want to be able to hunt full days for the time that I'm there. And who knows, I may be asking too much of my dogs for sure, but I like to give it a run, see how that goes. I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah. You'll have to keep me posted on that.
For sure.
Anything else on the nutrition stuff? Like I said, I know it was where can people find that article if they want to read it?
Go to Project Upland. It's on the web-based. If you just go onto their website, you look under articles reading, and then you'll see it down there. Yukonuba was great and helped me with connecting me to a lot of different resources and people and talk about it. And the other thing would be, pick your food. Premium dog food is the energy your dog needs. You have different levels of fat and carbohydrates in the food. Pay attention to those. You don't want to be using weight management when you're asking your dog to perform. So. And the other thing is, like you were saying, your dog has hit the woods at the right weight. They're not carrying any extra pounds. They're carrying what they need. Maybe early season, they have a few extra pounds so they can burn some fat, but not much that's going to hurt their joints and make their day a hard day of hunting. So yeah, hitting the woods with a dog in shape, you're reducing your chances of injuries. You're maximizing your dog's hunting potential, and feeding a good food and using these supplements, you can get a longer hunt, longer day, more and better, hopefully more productive hunt.
Yeah, I definitely try to watch. Like I said, I try to watch my dog, and I try to keep them about the same weight, especially in the summertime. And I know that season's getting ready to come up, and I don't mind putting, when I say a little extra, like it's a little extra. It's not 20 pounds. It ain't 10 pounds. Probably it ain't 5 pounds. Like I don't want them to run that first 2 or 3 days, and then it take me another 3 weeks to get them back up because I didn't maintain them right.
Right.
So I think that's very important. And a lot of times I just, maybe people don't know that if you can preload your dogs just like you said, if you can load them up on carbs and stuff, and you got to look at your food, what kind of food you're feeding. But if you can load them up at least 2 or 3 days before, it makes a world of difference. I mean, a world of difference in the outcome.
And I believe you're using a Inukshuk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of different varieties as well, don't they? Do you use that high what is it, rocket fuel?
The jet fuel.
Jet fuel.
So during, I feed 30-25 throughout the year. Now, training season, which is our training season's August and September, I still feed the 30-25. Now, October the 1st, which is Tuesday for us, I will start feeding my dogs the 32-32.
Yeah.
I only feed it from October until I run out. I bought 15 bags of it. So the 15 bags feeding 8 dogs will last me till mid to end of February. But Jason, there's also another reason that I feed the higher stuff starting in October. I continue to run out. Like I'm still going to be running. I'm going to be in West Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina. Our season comes in December, so I'll be running pretty much every day except Sundays in December. And I don't want my dogs run down by the end of 1st of January and then have to take on the cold weather. So with that 32-32, I'm putting enough calories per cup, not only to maintain them, but to make it easier on them to live in the colder environments. So that's one of the other reasons that I do that is I do feed the 32-32. I do not feed it all year round. I have found that from experience that if I feed the 32-32, I can look at my dogs today and they look the same, whether I'm feeding the 30-25 or the 32-32. But when I go to get them in shape, it took me twice as long to get them in shape on the 32-32. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because the amount of fat that's in that food. And even though I was keeping them at a healthy looking weight, I don't understand it. I don't know, but it took a long time to get my dogs where they needed to be. So after talking to Emily, which is their nutritionist, she suggested that I do what I'm doing now, and I couldn't be happier with the results that I have.
That's great. Yeah, I think just having a good quality dog food. Every dog runs differently. For us, we do a lot of waterfowl hunting, and come late season, a skinny dog doesn't really hold up well, on those cold negative days. Or, for us, I run short hairs. They don't do the negative very well anyhow. But definitely, if they had a little extra fat layer on them, they could withstand that a little bit better for sure.
Yeah. So they're actually getting in the water, right?
Yeah. We do some seat up hunting, and some 3 or 4 times in the water. We're putting wool blankets over them, trying to keep them warm because they don't handle it well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they don't have a double coat like the labs, do they?
No, they don't have a thick hide at all.
Yeah. Well, Jason, to wrap this up, is there anything you want to leave us with? I really appreciate it. Like I said, I thank you for the gun talk on the dogs. And like I said, I'd been wanting to pick your brain on that nutrition stuff because I read the article. I thought it was great. I encourage everyone to go to Project Upland and read that. It's a great information. It's very informative, and it'll give you some food for thought for sure.
Yeah, I just want to wish everyone a great hunting season, and love up your dogs. They're your best hunting buddies. They're the most trustworthy hunting friend you'll ever own. So treat them well, feed them well, be safe, and shoot straight.
All right. Jason, thank you for helping us teach, train, and learn.
Absolutely.
Do you like to be outdoors like I do? If so, unlock the wilderness with Onyx Maps. It is your ultimate guide to exploring, hunting, and conquering the great outdoors. With detailed maps, real-time tracking, and exclusive access to public and private lands, Onyx Maps is your key to adventure. Discover the possibilities and never get lost again with OnX. So subscribe today using the promo code K920. Letter K, number 9, 20, and know where you stand.